Starts on a normal Tuesday night. You lie down, you close your eyes, and nothing happens. Not insomnia, not tossing and turning. Something stranger. Your body has simply stopped being able to sleep at all, ever again. The first night you tell yourself it is stress. The second night you start to worry. By the third night you are Googling things at 4 in the morning that you never thought you would Google. This is not a thought experiment. This has actually happened to real human beings. And what happens to the human body and mind when sleep disappears completely is one of the strangest and most disturbing stories in modern medicine. Let's start with the first 24 hours because that part you might recognize. You feel foggy. Your reaction time slows. Simple math becomes harder. Scientists have compared the cognitive impairment of 24 hours without sleep to a blood alcohol level of 0.10. You would not be allowed to drive, but your body is still pushing forward, propped up by adrenaline and caffeine and willpower. This part is survivable. Most of us have done this once or twice in our lives. The real story begins after that. By hour 36, something changes. Your immune system begins to weaken. Inflammation increases throughout your body. Your hormones start to destabilize. Cortisol, the stress hormone, climbs and stays high. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for decision-making and impulse control, begins to function less and less like the front of a brain and more like the back. You start making decisions with the emotional, reactive part of your mind instead of the rational part. By hour 48, you cross into territory most healthy humans have never experienced. Microsleeps begin. These are involuntary, unconscious lapses lasting a few seconds where your brain forces itself into sleep whether you want it to or not. You can be standing up, you can be mid-sentence, and for 2 or 3 seconds, you are simply gone. Most people having a microsleep do not even realize it happened. By hour 72, the hallucinations start. Not dramatic, cinematic hallucinations. Something quieter and more unsettling. Shadows that move at the edge of your vision. Patterns on the wall that seem to shift. A feeling that someone is in the room when no one is. This is your brain attempting to dream while you are awake, because it has been denied dreaming for 3 straight days and it will not be denied forever. In 1959, a New York radio DJ named Peter Tripp stayed awake for 201 hours straight as a publicity stunt, broadcasting live the entire time. By day 3, he believed his shoes were filled with spiders. By day 5, he was paranoid that doctors monitoring him were trying to poison him. When it finally ended, he slept for 13 hours and reportedly was never quite the same again. Friends and colleagues said his personality had shifted permanently. But Peter Tripp eventually slept. What if you genuinely never could again? There is a real medical condition that answers this question, and it is one of the rarest and cruelest diseases ever documented. It is called fatal familial insomnia. It is a genetic disorder that causes a specific protein in the brain to misfold and slowly destroy the thalamus, the part of the brain that regulates sleep. Patients begin with mild insomnia. Within months, it progresses to complete and total inability to sleep. Not difficulty sleeping, 0 sleep, permanently. The disease moves through 4 stages. In the first stage, patients experience worsening insomnia, along with panic attacks and specific phobias that seem to come from nowhere. In the second stage, the hallucinations from earlier in our story become constant and severe, alongside panic attacks that can last for hours. In the third stage, patients lose the ability to sleep entirely. Not reduced sleep, none. The body simply stops being able to do it, like a function has been surgically removed. In the fourth and final stage, the body experiences what doctors describe as a kind of accelerated aging. Patients lose significant weight rapidly. Dementia-like symptoms appear. The body, deprived of the repair processes that only happen during deep sleep, begins to break down in ways that mirror decades of aging compressed into months. Death typically occurs within 18 months of the first symptom. There is no treatment. There is no cure. The reason this disease is so devastating to scientists studying it is not just the suffering it causes. It is what it reveals about why we sleep at all. For most of human history, we assumed sleep was simply rest. A pause button. Time spent doing nothing while the body recovers. We now know that is almost completely wrong. During deep sleep, your brain activates something called the glymphatic system, essentially a waste removal network that flushes toxic proteins out of your brain tissue. One of those proteins is called beta amyloid, the same protein strongly associated with Alzheimer's disease. Every single night, while you are unconscious, your brain is performing a kind of nightly cleaning that it can do at no other time. Without sleep, that cleaning never happens. The toxins accumulate, night after night, with nowhere to go. This is part of why fatal familial insomnia patients show signs of dementia so rapidly. Their brains are drowning in waste products that a normal brain would have flushed out months earlier. Sleep is not the absence of activity. Sleep is when your brain does some of its most important work. Memory consolidation happens during sleep, when your brain decides which experiences from the day matter enough to keep and moves them from short-term to long-term storage. Emotional regulation happens during sleep, which is part of why everything feels more catastrophic at 2 a.m. after a bad night. Cellular repair happens during sleep, when your body produces growth hormone and repairs tissue damage accumulated throughout the day. Without it, all of these processes simply stop. Not slow down, stop. If you genuinely never slept again, here is the honest medical timeline. Within the first week, severe cognitive decline. Within the first month, your immune system would be operating at a fraction of its normal capacity, leaving you vulnerable to infections a healthy body would easily fight off. Within 2 to 3 months, based on the only documented cases of total chronic sleep loss in human history, the body begins to fail in ways doctors still do not fully understand. The heart, deprived of the nightly recovery period it depends on, comes under chronic strain. The immune system, unable to perform its nightly maintenance, becomes increasingly compromised. And the brain, drowning in its own accumulated waste, begins to lose function in ways that look disturbingly similar to advanced dementia. There has never been a single confirmed case of a human surviving permanent total insomnia for longer than approximately 18 months. Not one. Every single case, every single time, ends the same way. So why does this matter to you, lying in your bed tonight, with a working thalamus and a brain capable of perfectly normal sleep? Because we live in a culture that treats sleep as optional, as weakness, as something to sacrifice for productivity, for scrolling, for one more episode. We treat the thing your brain does every single night to clean itself, repair itself, and process your entire emotional and cognitive existence as the first thing to cut when life gets busy. The people who study fatal familial insomnia did not set out to teach the rest of us a lesson. They were trying to understand a tragic and rare genetic disease. But what they accidentally proved, in the most extreme and devastating way possible, is something every sleep scientist has been trying to tell us for decades. Sleep is not a pause button. It is the maintenance schedule for the only brain and body you will ever have. And the people who never got to do that maintenance again did not get to choose that. You still do.